Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world so raw, so relentlessly grim, that you probably wouldn't last a single day there, not even close. Imagine waking up on a bed of straw, your skin prickling with fever. Your body aching like you ran a marathon you never signed up for. Around you, the air is thick with the scent of sweat, rot, and fear. You're not alone. 6 other people and a chicken share your cramped, single-room hut. Somewhere nearby, a deep, wet cough echoes. That's not just someone sick. It's a death knell. Welcome to the era of the Black Death, when medieval life was a brutal game of survival, and the odds were heavily stacked against you. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment below with where you're watching from and what time it is. I love seeing our little sleep-deprived history club grow. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes to a world that smells vaguely like goat and decisively like sweat. Your mouth is dry, your limbs ache, and your head pounds as if an invisible blacksmith is hammering inside your skull. The worst part, a warm, swollen lump throbbing under your left armpit. You poke at it, hoping against hope it's just a bug bite, but no, it's a bubo. A cruel hallmark that means you've officially joined a deadly club no one wants to be part of. You try to sit up, joints creaking like an ancient door hinge, but every movement sends jolts of pain through your swollen groin and limbs. Your breath is shallow and ragged, your heartbeat irregular. Looking down, you notice a purplish blotch blooming on your thigh, what doctors would later call a sign of the plague taking hold. But you're not going to see a doctor. There isn't one you trust. The closest healer wears a bird-like mask stuffed with herbs and mostly recommends slicing you open or praying harder, because that's how 14th century medicine worked. You swallow a weak moan as the church bell tolls not for comfort, but for death. Another neighbor didn't make it through the night. That makes 5 this week. The gravediggers are exhausted, their patience frayed as they dig shallow pits to stack bodies like firewood. You try to steady yourself wrapped in a ragged cloak that once belonged to your uncle and peek outside. The streets are eerily silent, even the rats seem to have vanished, sensing death's shadow. Your fever climbs, your thoughts blur. You think of water, but the bucket near the door is empty and the well is too risky. Collapse in public means getting tossed onto the plague cart. No one wants that. Your home is no sanctuary. It's a petri dish with walls. 4 damp wooden walls, no chimney, no windows. The roof leaks. The floor is dirt, not the kind you find in a spa garden, but the kind that smells of years of sweat onions and unspoken despair. You share this tiny cell with family parents, siblings, maybe an aunt who never left after visiting, and rats who scurry freely as if they pay rent. Privacy is a fantasy. When one coughs, everyone tenses. When one dies, you shift to make room because there's nowhere else to go. Quarantine. Isolation. Social distancing. These are foreign concepts. Dreams for a future you can't imagine. If your little brother coughs blood, he still sleeps next to you, not because you want to share germs, but because there's literally nowhere else for him to go. Outside, your neighbor yells, probably at fleas or the gods, or maybe just the unbearable noise of human misery. The only bathroom is a bucket in the corner, emptied only when someone remembers or trips over it. Lysol, bleach, ventilation, none of these exist. Your best defense is a damp rag, and the hope that the incense last burned in church killed airborne sin. You think about washing up. It's an adorable thought. Soap doesn't exist as you know it. The medieval version is a rough lump made from lard and ash that smells like old firewood and stings your skin. Water is a dubious resource. You'd have to trek miles to the nearest river or communal well where the water is a cocktail of frog dust, upstream regrets, and probably more germs than you can count. Heating water means more wood, and wood means risk getting fined or worse for gathering it. Bathing isn't regular anyway. The prevailing wisdom is that bathing opens your pores and invites disease in. So you cover your filth with more filth, hoping it doesn't move. The bugs don't help. Lice fleas and other creatures science hasn't discovered yet live in your hair, your clothes, your bedding, and your dignity. Nobles have them too, they just scratch more quietly. Shampoo, conditioner. Deodorant hilarious. Your hair is stringy stiff like straw. Your skin a patchwork of grime and bite marks. You try not to touch your face, but after 3 weeks without washing, what's the point? Your best deodorant is a pouch of dried herbs around your neck, which only confuses flies into thinking you're a spicy corpse. Medical treatment. Welcome to medieval medicine. The plague doctor arrives in his ominous beaked mask carrying a long stick, poking at your body without ever touching you. He smells like burning rosemary and personal space violations, his main cure. Bloodletting a dull, rusty blade slices open your arm to balance your humors. No gloves, no cleaning, just confident ignorance. Herbal fumigation follows burning sage and lavender smoke that only makes you cough harder. Other remedies include applying a live toad to your bubo garlic necklaces, crushed emeralds in your mouth, onion paste, and pigeon poop. You might also be told to chant psalms, wear a dead man's shirt, or walk in circles at midnight. If all else fails, confess your sins because the plague is divine punishment. For that one time you stole a turnip. Germ theory. Centuries away. Sickness isn't caused by bacteria, but by bad air, bad morals, or Saturn being in a mood. You smile weakly and say, "He bled me and burned herbs." Your family nods as if it makes sense. Welcome to medieval medicine. Who's to blame? Everyone and no one. The town scapegoats foreigners, Jews, women, and anyone deemed different. Accusations spiral into witch hunts, executions, and mass panic. Meanwhile, astrologers blame planetary alignments, others burn onions on their doorways or wave arms wildly at sneezes. No one truly knows what's happening, but fear is enough to keep chaos alive. The plague bell tolls again. Your mother, your brother, your neighbor, one by one, they are gone. You don't cry. Grief is a luxury you can't afford. The plague cart comes. Bring out your dead shouted coldly by tired men. Bodies are stacked in plague pits, no coffins, no ceremony, no mercy. Some rumors say people are buried alive by mistake. You try not to think about it. Tonight, as you lie on your straw bed, fevered and aching, you know the Black Death isn't just a disease, it's a reckoning that no one survives untouched. You wake to the dull ache of the same cramped room, a single wooden box with 4 walls and a roof that barely keeps the rain out. There's no privacy here, none at all. The smell hits you first. Damp hay, boiled onions, and a stubborn layer of sweat that never quite leaves. This is your kingdom now, your home. Or at least what passes for one. Your family squeezed like sardines share this little space with a dozen rats who've taken it upon themselves to claim residency. They scamper freely, skittering across your worn straw mats, nipping at any crumb or loose thread. You catch a glimpse of your little brother coughing weakly in the corner, his cheeks flushed with fever. Your mother hasn't spoken since the night before, eyes dull and staring at the floor. Your father still sleeps, or maybe he's passed out from exhaustion and worry. No one dares check. The walls groan in the wind, a constant reminder of how fragile your shelter really is. The roof leaks, letting in droplets of cold rain that land on your skin like tiny betrayals. There's no chimney, no fireplace to warm the chill that seeps into your bones. You pull your ragged cloak tighter, but it does little against the cold that isn't just from the weather. It's the creeping dread of sickness that has settled over your household, over your village, over the entire world you once knew. Outside the streets are unnervingly quiet. Usually the sounds of life would fill the air, the cluck of chickens, the distant laughter of children, the bark of dogs chasing after rats. But now there's only silence. Even the rats seem wary, as if they too understand that death walks among you. The air is thick with the stench of rot and smoke, a heavy perfume that clings to everything. You breathe shallowly, trying not to inhale too deeply. Every breath feels like a gamble, a roll of the dice you can't afford to lose. You want to step outside to feel the sun on your face or the wind in your hair, but your feet barely move. The ground is cold stone, unforgiving and hard beneath your bare soles. Each step sends a jolt through your swollen limbs. You think about the bucket in the corner, your shared bathroom, and shudder. It's full, overflowing with the detritus of desperate lives, emptied only when someone stumbles over it or remembers in passing. There's no running water, no soap, no bleach. Your only defense against infection is a damp rag, and even that feels hopelessly inadequate. Hygiene is a forgotten luxury. Soap is a harsh, crude lump made from ash and animal fat, if you're lucky enough to have any. Bathing is rare, not just because it's difficult, but because people believe washing opens your pores to disease. So you cover your filth with more filth, hoping that somehow it will keep the sickness at bay. Your hair is a tangled mess, stiff and greasy like straw. Fleas, lice, and other unseen parasites feast on your blood and sanity. Nobles have them too. They just scratch more quietly. The concept of quarantine or isolation is alien. If your little brother coughs blood, he still sleeps next to you, not out of choice, but necessity. There's simply no other place for him to go. Walls that close off one person only trap everyone inside the same deadly cloud. The idea of social distancing hasn't been invented, but even if it had, your family couldn't afford it. You share every breath, every ragged cough, every grim hope that you might somehow be spared. When the doctor arrives, it's a man cloaked in dark robes wearing a bird-like mask filled with herbs to ward off evil air. He doesn't touch you. Instead, he pokes at your swollen lumps with a long stick, muttering prayers or nonsense in Latin or French or perhaps gibberish. His remedies are no better than superstition. Bloodletting is the favorite. A dull knife slices open your arm, letting precious blood drain away to balance your humors. No gloves, no sterilization, just a rusty blade and the hopeful ignorance of a man who thinks this might help. Herbal fumigation follows sage and lavender burned in a small bundle, smoke filling the room, as you cough harder and harder. The doctor nods approvingly, convinced it's working. Other cures include applying live toads to your buboes, tying garlic around your neck, or stuffing crushed emeralds in your mouth if you're rich. Otherwise, onion paste and pigeon poop are recommended. For stubborn symptoms, you might be told to chant psalms, wear a dead man's shirt, or walk in circles in the churchyard at midnight. If all else fails, you confess your sins and prepare to meet your maker, because clearly the plague is divine punishment for stealing a turnip or some other minor crime. Meanwhile, the community turns on itself. Fear breeds suspicion, and suspicion breeds cruelty. Foreigners, merchants, and anyone who speaks with an unfamiliar accent are blamed and driven out. The Jewish population faces brutal persecution. Accused of poisoning wells and spreading the plague, A vile accusation with no evidence, but mass hysteria demands a villain. Women, especially those who live alone, know herbs or dare to make eye contact, are labeled witches. Midwives and healers, once respected, become targets of violent accusations. Even a glance at a black cat or failing to bow low enough at Mass can be fatal. The church offers little solace. Instead, it preaches fear and punishment. The plague is God's wrath, a result of sin and moral failure. Flagellants roam the streets, whipping themselves bloody in public displays of repentance, hoping to appease a distant and angry deity. Some burn onions on their doorways, others wave arms wildly at sneezes, desperate for any protection. The church bell tolls relentlessly, no longer calling to prayer, but to mourn the dead. Funerals have become cruel, rushed affairs. There's no time for mourning or ceremony. Bodies are dragged onto carts, shouted at with the chilling phrase, "Bring out your dead." Graveyards overflow. Priests rarely bless the departed. Instead, plague pits are dug wide, shallow graves, where bodies are stacked like loaves of unwanted bread. Sometimes people are buried alive by mistake, but no one has the luxury to care. The pace of death has outpaced grief, leaving only silence and the choking smell of decay. In this world, survival is a faint hope. Those lucky enough to live through the fever are often shunned. Seen as walking ghost reminders that the plague isn't finished. Villages are half-empty fields, untended shops closed or empty. Food is scarce. The baker is dead. The market is abandoned. You eat what you can. Old bread crusty with mold-wrinkled apples, something that used to be cheese but now seems sentient. Water is suspicious and foul-smelling. The well might hold corpses thrown in to save space. You drink weak, sour beer because it's boiled and less likely to kill you. Despite all this, people cling to faith, community, and the smallest moments of normalcy. Children take on adult roles, helping tend the sick or dig graves. Women accused of witchcraft fight for their lives. The social fabric unravels but does not snap. Somewhere a voice sings a lullaby. Somewhere else a joke is whispered between tears. And through it all, you trudge on barefoot on cold stone fever, burning through your bones, surrounded by death despair, and yet somehow a faint glimmer of hope. You can't help but think about hygiene, or rather the lack of it. In this world, cleanliness isn't a virtue. It's a suspicion. Soap, as you might imagine, isn't the gentle, lavender-infused bar you buy at the store today. If you're lucky, it's a hard, rough lump made from ash and animal fat, smelling like a fire long since burned out, and the kitchen floor you never get to mop. It stings your skin and sometimes causes a rash that competes with the plague itself for your attention. Water now, there's a luxury wrapped in danger. The nearest well is a few miles away, guarded by rumors as thick as the mud at its bottom. People whisper that someone dumped a corpse there last month. You consider boiling the water, but the wood for fires is scarce and you're too exhausted to tend flames. So you rely on what you can get, often tepid. Suspiciously murky water that tastes faintly of regret. Bathing isn't regular, far from it. The prevailing belief is that washing opens your pores, letting the evil humors or bad air in. It's a terrifying idea, one that keeps you grimy and itchy. The filthy clothes, the sweat crusted on your skin, the lice and fleas that crawl everywhere, these are your constant companions. Even the nobles aren't spared. They just scratch more discreetly, whispering about their itch, but never daring to admit it. Sometimes you manage a bath, a small tub filled with water that's already been used by others in the family, each passing through before you adding layers of oils, dirt, and secrets. By the time it's your turn, the water is a grayish soup that's somehow both revolting and the best relief you've felt in weeks. You hesitate, but dive in anyway because the alternative is to stay itchy and miserable. You wash quickly using handfuls of coarse soap and cold water, praying it's enough. Your hair is a tangled mess, stringy and stiff as straw. There's no shampoo or conditioner, no combs, just fingers that try to untangle knots while chasing fleas and bugs. You smell like a barn lost to time and hope. Deodorant. The closest you get is a pouch of dried herbs hung around your neck. Lavender, sage, rosemary, meant to confuse flies into thinking you're a spicy corpse. It doesn't work. Even your bedding is a breeding ground for pests. The straw mat you sleep on is filled with insects science hasn't even discovered yet. Your clothes are infested, too full of biting bugs that leave angry red welts and keep you scratched until your skin bleeds. You try not to touch your face because it's already covered in grime, but it's impossible to resist the itch. The best you can do is rinse your hands in cold rain when the skies finally open, and pray that the dampness will wash some of the filth away. Hygiene is a distant dream. Survival means accepting your own grossness, your body, a battlefield for unseen enemies. Medical treatment is no better. When your fever worsens and your buboes swell until they feel ready to burst, you're forced to seek help from the local doctor, a man who looks more like a dark omen than a healer. He wears a long robe and the infamous bird-shaped mask filled with dried flowers and herbs meant to ward off evil air. He doesn't touch you directly. Instead, he pokes your sores with a long stick, muttering prayers or Latin incantations that sound like nonsense to your ears. His primary remedy is bloodletting, believing that your body's for humor's blood phlegm. Yellow bile and black bile must be balanced. Too much blood. The solution is to slice open a vein and let it drain. No gloves, no sterilization, just a dull, rusty blade and his grim confidence. You scream through the pain, but he pays no mind. Next comes herbal fumigation, burning bundles of sage lavender and rosemary waving the smoke around your body. The smoke fills the room and makes you cough uncontrollably, but the doctor nods as if that means it's working. Then he may suggest placing a live toad on your buboes, tying garlic cloves around your neck, or stuffing crushed emeralds in your mouth if you're lucky enough to own any. When the symptoms stubbornly persist, the doctor's kit turns to the more bizarre chanting psalms, wearing a dead man's shirt, walking in circles in the churchyard at midnight. When all else fails, you're told to confess your sins and make peace with God, because clearly the plague is divine punishment for that stolen turnip or insult you hurled at your neighbor last year. This isn't medicine. It's guesswork wrapped in superstition and fear. Germ theory won't arrive for centuries. In this world, sickness is caused by bad air, bad morals, or a moody Saturn aligning with Mars. No one understands bacteria. No one washes their hands. No one cleans their instruments. You endure because you must. Meanwhile, blame festers in the town like an open wound. Foreigners, merchants, travelers, anyone who speaks differently are shunned and chased away. The Jewish community, persecuted for generations, is now targeted as well, accused of poisoning wells and spreading death, though they suffer equally. Women who live alone, midwives, herbalists, widows, and anyone with too much knowledge or too little fear become witches in the eyes of desperate neighbors. A glance, a whispered rumor, a broken social norm, and you're a target for hatred or worse. The church, supposed to be a sanctuary, offers little comfort. It preaches that the plague is punishment from God for humanity's sins. Some people whip themselves bloody in the streets, flagellants, hoping their pain will turn away divine wrath. Others hang onions in doorways or burn sulfur to cleanse the air. A sneeze might set off panic. The bell tolls not for prayer but for death. Funerals are hurried affairs. The plague cart comes more than once a day, men shouting, "Bring out your dead," as bodies are loaded onto wooden platforms. No coffins, no last rites, no mourning. Graveyards overflow. The dead are tossed into plague pits' shallow, wide holes where bodies stack like firewood. You hear tales of people buried alive by mistake, but no one has time to grieve or check. You're left with the stifling silence of a world unraveling, the eerie quiet punctuated only by coughs and the clatter of the cart. Survivors move like ghosts the living dead. Villages empty, fields untended, shops closed or looted. Food is scarce, water is suspect. You drink weak beer, the only thing boiled and safe enough to swallow. Despite everything, you cling to faith and hope because that's all that's left. The bugs. Oh, the bugs. You might think they're just a minor annoyance, but in this world, they are your relentless tormentors. Lice, fleas, and creatures so small and numerous, you swear they have a secret conspiracy against your sanity. They live in your hair, your clothes, your bedding, even in the seams of your shoes if you're lucky enough to have any. Their bites leave angry red welts that itch and burn, a constant reminder that your body is not your own. Nobles aren't spared. They just scratch more quietly behind closed doors, hidden by the pomp and gold of their status. But you cramped in your wooden box with 6 other people and a chicken have nowhere to hide. You wake to the itch crawling along your scalp, the small creatures feasting as you try to sleep. There's no shampoo or conditioner, no magic potions, no treatments. Just fingers scratching at your skin and clothes. Deodorant hilarious. The best you can do is hang a pouch of dried herbs, lavender, sage, rosemary around your neck, hoping it confuses the flies and masks the odor of decay that seems to cling to everyone. It doesn't work, but it's better than nothing. Your skin is a patchwork of grime bite marks and irritation. The clothes you wear are stiff and crusty, stained by sweat dirt and who knows what else. You try not to touch your face, but it's coated in a layer of dust and oil so thick you can't tell where skin ends and filth begins. Your hair is stringy stiff like straw, your scalp crawling with more insects than you can count. Your bedding isn't any better, the straw mat you lie on is filled with bugs. You wake covered in small bites and scratching wounds. The rats that share your home nibble on the corners of your clothing, your belongings, and if you're unlucky, your toes. You shudder as one scurries across your foot in the dead of night. You try to keep your hands busy, your mind distracted, but the itch never truly leaves. The concept of personal hygiene as you know it simply doesn't exist here. Soap is a harsh lump of ash and lard if you can find any at all. Water is scarce and usually contaminated, so washing is a luxury few can afford. Bathing is believed to open your pores to the very diseases that plague you. So instead, you cover your filth with more filth, hoping it will keep the sickness at bay. Medical treatment, if you can call it that, is a cruel farce. The local doctor is a man cloaked in dark robes wearing a bird-shaped mask filled with herbs meant to ward off evil air. He doesn't touch you. Instead, he pokes at your swollen buboes with the long stick, muttering prayers or Latin incantations that sound like gibberish to your ears. His favored treatment is bloodletting, a dull, rusty knife slicing open your arm to drain blood you can barely afford to lose. No gloves, no sterilization, just a confident ignorance that borders on cruelty. You scream through the pain, but he barely listens. Then comes the herbal fumigation. Burning bundles of sage lavender and rosemary fill the room with smoke, making you cough so hard you feel like you might choke. The doctor nods as if that means it's working. Other cures include placing live toads on your buboes, tying garlic cloves around your neck, or stuffing crushed emeralds in your mouth if you're wealthy enough to own any. When symptoms persist, the doctor might prescribe chanting psalms wearing a dead man's shirt, or walking in circles in the churchyard at midnight. And if all else fails, you're told to confess your sins and prepare to meet God, because the plague is divine punishment for your misdeeds. The community driven by fear turns on itself. Foreigners, merchants, and anyone with a different accent are chased away. The Jewish population faces brutal persecution, accused of poisoning wells despite suffering equally. Women, especially those living alone or knowledgeable in herbs, become targets of witch hunts. A wrong look, a whispered rumor, or failure to bow properly at Mass can mean death. The church, supposed to be a sanctuary, offers no real comfort. It preaches that the plague is God's wrath, a punishment for sin. Flagellants roam the streets, whipping themselves bloody to appease divine anger. Others hang onions at their doors or burn sulfur to cleanse the air. A single sneeze can spark panic. Funerals have become rushed, brutal affairs. The plague cart shouts, "Bring out your dead," more than once a day. Bodies are piled onto wooden platforms and taken to overflowing plague pits. No coffins, no ceremony, no mourning. Some are buried alive by mistake. You try not to think about it. Survivors move like ghosts through empty villages. Fields lie fallow, shops are shuttered or looted. Food is scarce. You eat moldy bread, wrinkled apples, and drink weak beer, the only thing boiled and safe enough. Water is suspicious, often foul-smelling. Wells may contain corpses thrown in to save space. And yet, despite all this, people cling to faith community and the smallest moments of normalcy. Children take on adult roles, tending the sick and digging graves. Women accused of witchcraft fight for their lives. The social fabric unravels, but does not snap. You trudge on barefoot on coal-stone fever, burning through your bones, surrounded by death and despair, yet somehow holding on to the faintest glimmer of hope. When the plague doctor arrives, it feels less like hope, and more like a shadow crossing the threshold. He's not a man you'd invite inside, cloaked in dark robes that flap in the wind like funeral flags. His most striking feature, the beak-shaped mask stuffed with dried herbs and flowers, designed not for fashion but to filter the miasma, the bad air believed to carry disease. The mask's glass eyes hide his gaze, creating a strange barrier between healer and patient. And you can't help but wonder if he's afraid of you as much as you are of him. He carries a long wooden cane which he uses to poke at your swollen, pulsing buboes without ever touching your skin directly. The air around him smells of burning rosemary and something sour like a mix of hope and fear burned to ash. His presence is both ominous and strangely ritualistic, a reminder that medicine in your time is as much superstition as science. His diagnosis is simple and terrifying: the plague has claimed you. What follows is a litany of treatments that sound more like punishments. Bloodletting is the first course of action. You're laid bare on a rough wooden bench as the doctor pulls out a dull, rusted blade. There's no sterilization, no gloves, just the confident slashing of skin as he opens a vein to let blood flow. The pain is sharp and immediate, but in a world where death is already a shadow looming over every breath, it feels almost normal. Next comes the fumigation. A small bundle of sage lavender or rosemary is set ablaze and swung around your body, the smoke thick and choking. You cough violently, tears streaming down your face, but the doctor nods. solemnly convinced this will purify your soul and body. You wonder if it does anything at all beyond making you feel worse. Other treatments are stranger still. You might be told to place a live toad on your buboes, believing its cold skin will draw out the sickness. Garlic cloves are tied around your neck to ward off evil spirits. If you're lucky and rich, crushed emeralds might be stuffed in your mouth, though no one knows why that should help. When symptoms stubbornly persist, the doctor may prescribe chanting psalms wearing a dead man's shirt, or walking in circles through the churchyard at midnight, rituals more suited to the theater than to healing. The belief that disease is divine punishment is so strong that confession and repentance become part of treatment. You're urged to confess your sins and prepare your soul for death, whether or not you truly believe it. In this world, sickness isn't just physical, it's moral, spiritual, cosmic. The doctor's remedies are crude and often deadly in themselves, but they represent the best hope many cling to. Germ theory and antibiotics are centuries away, and no one understands that fleas carried on rats are the real enemy. Instead, blame and fear fuel desperate measures. Outside the walls of your home, the village is fraying at the edges. Fear drives neighbors apart as suspicion takes root. Foreigners, merchants, anyone with an unfamiliar accent or strange clothes are cast out, blamed for bringing death on the community. The Jewish population, already marginalized, faces violent persecution and massacres accused falsely of poisoning wells. Women, especially those living alone or possessing herbal knowledge, become targets of witch hunts, their very survival seen as unnatural. The church offers no sanctuary. It preaches that the plague is punishment for sin, urging the faithful to fast, pray, and flagellate themselves until their backs bleed. Some believe this self-punishment will appease God and end the plague. Others burn onions on their doorsteps, wave their arms, wildly to ward off evil or avoid anyone who sneezes as if contagion were a curse cast by witches. Funerals have become grim and hasty. The plague cart rolls through the village daily, the driver's voice echoing, "Bring out your dead." Bodies are piled onto carts with no ceremony or care, and taken to overflowing plague pits, wide, shallow graves where corpses stack like firewood. The stench is unbearable. Rumors spread that some are buried alive, but no one has time to verify. The survivors are few and haunted. Villages shrink as families vanish. Fields go untended, shops close or are looted. Food becomes a desperate gamble. Moldy bread, wrinkled apples, and sour beer, the only drink safe to swallow, become staples. Wells smell foul and may contain the dead. Hunger is a constant companion, as terrifying as the plague itself. Yet amid the despair, life clings stubbornly to hope. Children grow up fast, taking on adult roles to keep what's left of the community alive. Women accused of witchcraft fight for their lives with courage born of desperation. The social fabric tears, but never quite breaks. You walk barefoot on cold stone floors, your fever burning through every bone, surrounded by death and despair. Still, you hold on to a faint glimmer of hope, a whispered prayer, a memory of laughter long ago. The air is thick with whispers and suspicion. Fear isn't just a feeling. It's a living, breathing thing that wraps itself around every conversation, every glance. The plague has left the village fractured, and now the community turns on itself, hunting for someone or something to blame. When things fall apart, people need a villain, and unfortunately plenty of candidates fit the bill. First, there are the foreigners. Anyone who speaks with an accent or dresses differently is suddenly suspect. Merchants from distant towns, travelers passing through, they become easy scapegoats. You've heard the shouts, the accusations, the hurried expulsions. The less people understand you, the more likely they are to point fingers and shout curses. You learn quickly to keep your mouth shut and your head down when strange faces come near. The Jewish community faces an even darker fate. For centuries they have been marginalized, but now panic drives hatred into deadly violence. Rumors fly that they've poisoned wells or spread the plague deliberately. Entire neighborhoods burn to the ground, not because of evidence, but because hysteria demands a culprit. It doesn't matter that Jewish families suffer and die just like everyone else. Facts lose to fear in times like these. Women, especially those who live alone, know herbs or are seen as too independent, become targets of witch hunts. Midwives, healers, widows. Any woman who doesn't fit the mold of obedience and silence is at risk. You watch as neighbors turn on each other. Accusations whispered behind closed doors and shouted in the streets. A glance at a black cat, a failure to bow low enough at Mass, a misunderstood word. Each is a thread in the noose. You notice the way your neighbors avoid eye contact, how they cross themselves when you pass muttering prayers under their breath. Even children mimic the fear, clutching talismans or staying close to their mothers. The once close community is now a battlefield of suspicion where trust is a rare and precious commodity. The church, once a place of refuge, is now a source of dread and despair. The priests preach that the plague is God's punishment for humanity's sins. Some people respond with desperate acts of penance, flagellance, walking the streets, whipping themselves until blood flows freely, believing their pain will earn divine mercy. Others hang onions on their doors, burn sulfur, or scatter holy water in vain attempts to cleanse their homes. Astrologers claim the alignment of Saturn and Mars has angered the heavens, unleashing pestilence on the land. Some say demons ride the eastern winds carrying death like a storm cloud. Amid this chaos, superstition reigns supreme. People wave their arms wildly at sneezes, and a simple cough can set off a panic. The plague bell tolls constantly now, not for prayer, but for death. You hear it ringing through the village, a grim reminder of lives lost and those soon to be gone. You're too exhausted to cry, too numb to mourn. Death is the new normal. Funerals have lost all ceremony. The cart arrives with its chilling call. Bring out your dead bodies are loaded quickly, no time for last words or prayers. Plague pits are dug at the edge of town, wide and shallow. Bodies stack like firewood, a grotesque testament to the scale of death. Some whisper that the dead are buried alive, but no one dares verify. The smell of decay is constant choking, inescapable. The survivors wander the ruins of their former lives. Half the village is empty, the other half filled with silence and whispers. Children grow up fast, taking on roles far beyond their years, fetching water, tending animals, digging graves. You watch as they carry the weight of a world that no longer holds laughter or dreams. Women accused of witchcraft fight to survive their knowledge of herbs and healing, both a blessing and a curse. Some are dragged before angry mobs, forced to confess sins they never committed. Others simply disappear, their fates unknown but never forgotten. Food is scarce. The baker is dead. The miller, the blacksmith, they've all succumbed to the plague. The market stalls are empty or rotting with unsold goods. You eat what you can, stale bread, shriveled apples, hard cheese that's more stone than dairy. Water is suspicious and foul-smelling. Rumors say corpses have been dumped in wells to save space. You drink weak, sour beer because it's boiled and less likely to kill you. Hunger gnaws at your belly, a constant aching companion. Every bite is a gamble, every sip a risk. You don't eat for pleasure, you eat to stay alive barely. The world you knew has vanished. The rhythms of life, market days, feast days, gossip in the fields have broken. The sun rises and sets over a quieter, emptier land. The village shrinks not just in numbers, but in spirit. Doors swing open in the wind like mouths that never finish their last sentence. Yet amid this desolation, a faint flicker of life remains. People still sing songs in the dark, tell jokes between tears, and cling to the smallest fragments of hope. You remind yourself that surviving even in this fractured world is a miracle. You walk barefoot on cold stone floors, your body aching, your breath shallow. You are surrounded by death and despair, but still somehow you hold on to that faint glimmer of hope. Amid the chaos, you find yourself caught between fear and faith, desperation and devotion. The church, once a beacon of solace, now echoes with prayers steeped in dread. Clergy clad in somber robes pace the cold stone floors, their eyes hollow from countless funerals and fading hope. The pews once filled with voices raised in hymn and celebration are now half empty, and those who remain sit, scattered less from caution, more from superstition. You shuffle to a distant bench, the wood rough beneath your weary limbs, and listen as the priest reads from a Bible written in a language you barely understand. Latin, it's called a tongue, reserved for monks and nobles, leaving you to decipher only the emotion behind the words. Warnings, judgment, penance. The sermon drifts like smoke through the air, heavy with the message that the plague is divine punishment, the consequence of mankind's sins. Around you, the congregation whispers prayers, some pleading for mercy, others seeking forgiveness through flagellation. Groups of the devout march in solemn procession, whipping their backs raw in public displays of repentance, hoping their pain will sway an indifferent God. You watch their backs streaked with blood and wonder if this self-inflicted suffering offers more relief than hope. Faith is your last refuge. Even when it brings fear, it offers something tangible amid the intangible horrors closing in. You find yourself returning to the church day after day, drawn by a desperate need for answers, for comfort, or perhaps just a semblance of normalcy. The priest's voice is a thread tying you to the world you once knew, even if the words themselves feel distant and hollow. You try to confess, but what can you say? Forgive me, Father, for I coughed twice and wished I had more soup. Your sins feel small against the vastness of death surrounding you. The priest listens, his face impassive, offering ritual absolution that feels like a whisper in a storm. Outside the village's desolation deepens. The market stalls remain empty. The fields lie fallow. Children no longer play in the streets, their laughter replaced by cautious silence. Dogs roam in packs, howling for absent masters. Chickens wander, freely clucking over empty grain bins, their owners gone or lost. The quiet is suffocating. You hear rumors of strangers trying to enter nearby towns only to be met with torches and stones. Fear of infection breeds suspicion of outsiders. The roads grow dangerous, the walls of once thriving villages rising in defense against the unknown. Isolation becomes both protection and prison. Yet even in the bleakness, life persists. Some drink endlessly, chasing numbness and sour beer. Others gamble with scraps of bread coins and bones, desperate to grasp control in a world spiraling beyond it. And amid the ruin, there are flickers of connection, moments when human warmth pierces the cold reality, when laughter breaks through tears, and when hope, however fragile, still flickers. Children once shielded by innocence now shoulder burdens far beyond their years. They carry water, tend to the sick, and dig graves with hands too small for such heavy tasks. Their eyes, wide and wary, hold no dreams of knighthood or scholarly glory, only a quiet hope for another dawn without swelling or fever. Women accused of witchcraft fight silent battles, their knowledge of healing both a lifeline and a curse. The line between healer and heretic blurs in a society gripped by fear. Some face public accusations, trials, and executions fueled by desperation rather than justice. Others vanish into the shadows, their fates unknown, but their absence felt keenly. The social fabric unravels, but it does not tear completely. People still cling to community, still seek connection, still fight to endure. In the dim light of dwindling days, you hold fast to the small comforts, a shared meal, a whispered prayer, a remembered song. The Black Death may claim bodies, but it cannot extinguish the human spirit entirely. You walk barefoot on cold stone floors, your fever burning through your bones, surrounded by death and despair. Still, you hold on to that faint glimmer of hope. Funerals have become grim, rushed affairs, the kind you never imagined before this nightmare began. You barely have time to grieve anymore. There's no space for ceremony or comfort. The plague cart rolls through the village streets regularly, its driver shouting the chilling phrase, "You've come to dread. Bring out your dead." It's a phrase that once might have sounded like dark humor, but now it's an unrelenting reality. Bodies are gathered quickly, thrown onto wooden platforms with little care, no coffin, no final words. The gravediggers, exhausted and resigned, dig wide, shallow pits at the edge of town plague pits, where the dead are stacked like firewood. Sometimes they sprinkle quicklime over the piles to slow the stench, sometimes they don't. The smell of decay is constant, a heavy, choking presence that clings to your skin and clothes. You hear whispers of the terrible mistakes happening in these graveyards. People weak and barely conscious, mistaken for dead or buried alive. The thought sends shivers down your spine, but there's no time to dwell on it. Life moves too fast, or rather death does. There's no black clothing, no flowers, no eulogies. Just dirt silence and the choking stench of bodies laid to rest without dignity. You know that if you survive, you'll likely never see a proper burial for your loved ones or yourself. If you're fortunate or perhaps cursed by your social status, you might get a slightly better burial. The wealthy have private corners in the churchyard or family crypts, though even these are overwhelmed. Titles and land mean little to the plague. Everyone rots the same way. Sitting near a dying fire that barely keeps the cold at bay, you realize the world you knew is vanishing. The songs, the stories, the laughter, they all fade into the shadows of loss. There's no one left to tell tales or pass down memories. No cheers greet survival, only silence and wary glances. You try not to cry, not because you're numb though you are, but because grief is a luxury you cannot afford. Your body aches, your breath comes in ragged gasps. Tomorrow the cart will come again. Someday soon it might carry you. Survival is no victory here. It's a bitter, hollow existence where the living carry the weight of the dead, haunted by absence and loss. You walk through a village half empty, its remaining inhabitants ghosts, trapped in a world that no longer feels like home. The baker is gone, the miller too. Shops stand abandoned, their shelves empty or rotting with unsold goods. Fields lie untended, weeds growing where crops once flourished. Food is scarce. What little remains is hoarded or spoiled. You eat moldy bread, hard and gray, with fuzzy growths that seem almost alive. You break off chunks and knock them against the table, hoping to dislodge the worst of the mold before swallowing the rest. You chew reluctantly, telling yourself it's better than nothing. Water is a constant worry. The well once a source of life now smells faintly of death. Rumors say a corpse was dumped there to save space. You consider boiling the water, but wood is scarce and lighting a fire feels like an impossible task. Instead, you drink weak sour beer, the only thing boiled and safe to swallow. It's thin and cloudy with a taste more of grain than hops, but it settles your stomach and spares you the threat of dysentery. Meat is a distant memory. The last time you ate anything resembling it was a squirrel roasted hastily over a fire fueled by old floorboards. You shared it with 2 cousins and a dog. The dog got the better deal of the tail while you fought over scraps. Fruit is scarce, shriveled apples with one good bite left hard to tell if they're fruit or something else entirely. Cheese, if you can call it that, has become a philosophical question. It's hard cracked and smelling faintly of ruin. You eat it anyway. Sometimes you scavenge abandoned houses, finding a sack of dried peas here or a jar of honey there, but you're not alone. Other survivors have the same desperate idea. Food is now currency. People trade old shoes tools or favors for a handful of oats. Salt and pepper are myths from a time before death. Every bite you take is a gamble, every sip a dare. You don't eat to feel full, you eat to stay vertical. Even then, the line between survivor and the next on the cart is a single bad mushroom or a missed breath away. Despite everything, you keep moving. You try to work, but there's no one left to give orders. The lord of the manor is dead, the field hands buried, the blacksmith's forge cold. The forge master vanished after falling ill, walking into the woods never to return. You think about leaving, heading to the next town, but stories circulate of strangers beaten at the gates, chased off with stones, or forced to strip naked in the river to prove they aren't carrying death in their clothes. You stay alone and alive because the quiet is worse than the coughing ever was. You start talking to yourself not because you're mad, but because silence is too loud. You pray, but the priest is gone, the church abandoned, more haunted than holy. And here's the cruelest part: you survived, but the world you survived for is gone. The people are gone. The joy is gone. The rhythm of life, the market days, the feast days, the gossip in the fields is broken. No one knows how to start it again. You expected survival to feel like victory, but it feels more like waiting. Waiting for the world to remember how to live. Survival doesn't bring relief, it brings a new kind of suffering. You wake each day hungry, the gnawing emptiness in your belly a constant companion. Hunger during the Black Death isn't just a matter of missing a meal. It's a brutal reality, a gnawing question of whether eating might kill you faster than the plague itself. Your pantry is empty or worse, filled with moldy sacks of barley that seem to develop personalities of their own. You find bread hard as stone, coated with fuzzy gray mold that you break off with a sense of resigned desperation. You knock a chunk against the table to dislodge the worst of it, then chew anyway, not because it's tasty or even safe, but because not eating is unthinkable. Water is a gamble. The village well smells faintly of something dead, and rumors swirl that corpses have been dumped there to save space in the plague pits. Boiling water would help, but wood is scarce, and the effort to light a fire feels like climbing a mountain after a lifetime of hard labor. You turn to beer, not for pleasure, but because it's been boiled, making it safer than water. It's thin, sour, and warm, but it fills the void in your stomach and spares you the worst of dysentery. You drink it at dawn, at noon, at midnight, trying to stave off hunger and sickness alike. Meat is a memory fading like a dream. The last time you tasted it was months ago, a hastily roasted squirrel cooked over a fire fueled by old floorboards. You shared it with cousins and a dog, and the dog got the best part, the tail. The taste lingers in your mouth, bittersweet and haunting. Fruit is scarce shriveled apples with one good bite left their sweetness a rare delight. Cheese is questionable hard and cracked its identity lost to time and mold. Still, you eat it. Your stomach protests, but you tell it to be quiet. Sometimes you scavenge abandoned houses, finding a sack of dried peas here or a jar of honey there. But you're not alone. Other survivors have the same desperate idea. Food has become currency traded for old shoes, broken tools, or favors. Salt and pepper are myth's whispers from a time before death ruled. Every bite you take is a gamble, every sip a dare. You eat not to enjoy, but to survive, to keep your legs moving one more day. Even then, the line between survivor and the next on the cart is perilously thin. Just one bad mushroom, one misstep, one bad breath away. The church is your last hope, or so you think. When the hunger quiets enough to let you move, you drag yourself to the small stone building at the village's edge. The one with the leaning cross and the permanently closed door. Inside, the pews are half empty, the air thick with the smell of melted wax, wet wood, and quiet desperation. The priest is a gaunt figure in black robes, eyes hollow from too many funerals and too little faith. He speaks softly, reading from a Bible in Latin words you don't understand, but feel deeply. He tells you the plague is punishment, a result of sins you can't name. You are to repent. Pray harder, fast, longer, because the catastrophe is the price for pride gluttony, or that one time your cousin cursed during a storm. Around you, people weep silently or chant in mournful tones. Some flagellate themselves, whipping their backs raw, believing pain will cleanse their souls. The priest doesn't stop them. He nods solemnly, approving their suffering as if it will save you all. You try to confess, but what can you say? Forgive me, Father. For I coughed twice and wished I had more soup. The priest offers ritual absolution, but it feels hollow, a small light in an unending darkness. Outside, the death bell rings again. Inside, no one flinches. You're used to it now. The plague's toll is relentless, unyielding. The village's broken neighbors whisper in fear. Children no longer play dogs, roam in packs without owners, and the silence is heavy. Yet life persists in fragile forms. Some drink endlessly to numb their pain. Others gamble with what little they have. Coins, scraps, hopes. Some even find fleeting moments of love or lust, desperate to grasp a shred of normalcy. The social fabric peels away, layer by layer, like a rotting onion. And you are trapped inside, trying not to cry, trying not to laugh too hard, because madness is the only escape. The future is uncertain, but you keep waking up. You keep breathing. You keep hoping. The scarcity of food during the Black Death isn't just a background detail. It's a daily battle, a gnawing challenge that chips away at your strength and spirit. Hunger is a shadow that stretches longer than the plague itself, creeping into every corner of your life. You remember a time when the village market buzzed with life vendors shouting over each other, baskets brimming with fresh vegetables, fragrant bread cooling on windowsills. Now it's a ghost town. The baker is dead. His warm ovens are cold and silent. The miller too has succumbed, and with him the rhythmic grinding of grain that once filled the air with promise. No one tends the fields. The crops have withered or been overrun by weeds. The carts that used to haul fresh produce now lie abandoned, their wheels stuck in mud or broken from neglect. Your pantry, if you have one, is barren. What little you find is often spoiled or infested with weevils. Moldy sacks of barley that you'd swear have minds of their own sit untouched because the thought of eating them feels like a punishment. Bread is hard as stone, sometimes covered with fuzzy gray mold. You knock pieces against the table, trying to dislodge the worst before swallowing out of necessity, not hunger. Water is equally suspect. The village well, once a source of life, now reeks faintly of death. Rumors swirl that corpses have been dumped there to save space in the overflowing plague pits. Boiling water would help, but fuel is scarce. Lighting a fire is an exhausting task, one you avoid unless absolutely necessary. Beer becomes your staple, not for pleasure, but because it's been boiled and is safer to drink. It's thin, sour, and warm, but it fills your stomach and spares you the worst of the illnesses that water might bring. You sip it throughout the day, a bitter comfort in a world turned upside down. Meat is a memory slipping through your fingers like smoke. The last time you tasted it was months ago, a hastily roasted squirrel cooked over a fire fueled by old floorboards. You shared it with cousins and a dog, and the dog got the best part, the tail. The flavor lingers in your mouth, bittersweet and haunting. Fruit is rare, a few shriveled apples, with one good bite left their sweetness a precious gift. Cheese, if you can call it that, is hard and cracked, smelling faintly of ruin. You eat it anyway because the alternative is starvation. You scavenge abandoned houses when you can finding a sack of dried peas here or a jar of honey there. But you're not alone. Other survivors share your desperation. Food has become currency. People trade old shoes, broken tools, or favors for a handful of oats. Salt and pepper are myths from a time before death ruled. Every bite is a gamble. Every sip a dare. You eat not for pleasure, but to survive, to keep your legs moving. Even then, the line between survivor and the next on the card is perilously thin. One bad mushroom, one misstep, one missed breath away. The weight of hunger presses on your body, sapping your strength and will. Yet somehow you carry on. You try to tend the fields, but there's no one left to help. The lord of the manor is dead. The blacksmith and the miller gone. The village slowly decays, a husk of what it once was. You consider leaving, venturing to the next town, but stories of gates barred to strangers, torches and stones greet all newcomers. Fear of infection has turned neighbors into enemies. You stay trapped in a quiet prison where the silence is almost worse than the coughing. You talk to yourself not because you're mad, but because silence is too loud. You pray, though the priest is gone, the church abandoned, more haunted than holy. The cruelest irony is this: you survived. But the world you survived for is gone. The people are gone. The joy is gone. The rhythm of life, the market day's feast, day's gossip in the fields, is broken. No one knows how to start it again. Survival feels less like victory and more like waiting for a world that may never return. As days stretch into weeks and weeks into months, you find yourself clinging to faith as if it were a lifeline cast into a stormy sea. The church, though diminished and silent in many ways, remains a beacon, however flickering, for those who survive. You shuffle through the cracked wooden doors, the stone floor cold beneath your weary feet, seeking some semblance of solace in the familiar rituals. The priest, his face etched with exhaustion and sorrow, reads softly from a tattered Bible. His voice, barely above a whisper, carries words in Latin you cannot fully understand, yet you feel their weight. They speak of judgment and mercy, sin and salvation, a cosmic drama, playing out far beyond the village's ruined streets. Around you, the congregation is sparse. The once vibrant community has been thinned by death and fear. Many no longer come unable to face the constant reminders of loss, but those who remain clutch rosary beads and cross themselves with trembling hands. In their eyes you see a mix of desperation and hope, a fragile balance between despair and faith. Some among the faithful take their penance to extremes. Flagellants march through the village, their backs raw and bleeding as they whip themselves in public displays of repentance. They believe that through their suffering they can appease an angry God and turn away the plague's relentless hand. You watch them from a distance, their moans and cries, echoing down empty streets, wondering if their pain will be enough. Others resort to smaller rituals, hanging bundles of garlic in their homes, burning sulfur to cleanse the air, or tying herbs around their necks to ward off evil. Superstition intertwines with religion, blurring the line between the sacred and the desperate. You participate in these rituals not because you believe, but because they give a sense of control in a world gone mad. Prayer becomes a constant companion, whispered in the quiet moments before sleep, muttered while working the fields, cried out in grief. You confess sins you cannot remember, plead for forgiveness for deeds undone, and ask for mercy you're not sure you deserve. Despite the church's presence, a rift grows between faith and reality. Priests themselves struggle with doubt, their sermons tinged with uncertainty. They warn that the plague is punishment, but no amount of prayer seems to stem the tide. Some question whether the wrath of God can be softened, or if humanity is doomed. The village feels abandoned by heaven. Graves grow deeper, prayers grow quieter, and hope flickers like a candle in a draught. You wrestle with your own beliefs, torn between the comfort of faith and the harshness of the world around you. The plague bell tolls incessantly its mournful sound, marking the passing of lives too many to count. Yet life persists stubbornly. Children, now orphaned or burdened beyond their years, take on adult responsibilities, tending livestock, fetching water, caring for the sick. Their eyes hold stories of loss and survival that no child should bear. Women often accused of witchcraft or heresy fight silent battles. Their knowledge of herbs and healing is both a gift and a curse. Some are persecuted, others hide their skills, and many simply survive as best they can. The social fabric unravels, but it does not break completely. In quiet moments, neighbors share food stories and tears clinging to the bonds that death cannot sever. You find moments of unexpected warmth, a shared smile, a whispered joke, the touch of a hand. These fragile sparks of humanity offer a glimmer of light in the overwhelming darkness. You hold on to them tightly, knowing they might be the only thing that keeps you sane. In this fractured world, faith is both a balm and a burden. It offers meaning and comfort, but also pain and doubt. You walk barefoot on cold stone floors, fever burning through your bones, surrounded by death and despair. Yet still, you hold on to that faint glimmer of hope, the hope that life in some form will endure. In the fractured world around you, society itself begins to unravel in ways you never expected. The bonds that once held neighbors close, shared meals, village festivals, communal work, are frayed almost beyond repair. Fear has turned friends into strangers and strangers into enemies. You notice it in the way eyes dart away when you pass in the hushed whispers behind doors and the subtle shifts of body language that say, "Stay away." Paranoia creeps into every corner. If someone sneezes, others back away, clutching their scarves tighter or crossing themselves in silent prayer. People whisper of curses, evil spirits, and witches who bring death like a shadow stalking the streets. Rumors spread faster than the plague itself, each one more terrifying than the last. You've heard tales of neighbors turning on neighbors, accusing them of spreading the disease intentionally. Some believe that illness is a punishment not only from God, but from the hand of man. Poisoned wells, cursed food, secret plots. The thin veneer of civilization peels away, revealing something raw and desperate underneath. At market stalls, now mostly deserted, you hear traders argue over prices. Suspicion thick in the air. A handful of coins can't buy much, but greed still thrives. Those who hoard food or supplies are both feared and despised, their homes avoided like plague itself. You wonder how anyone can hold onto possessions when death lurks so close. Children grow up too fast in these times. Where once they played in fields and streets, now they fetch water, care for the sick, or help dig graves. Their innocence is a casualty of survival. You watch their wide eyes, too old for their years, and wonder what stories they will carry forward, if any stories survive at all. Women, often the caretakers of knowledge, bear a heavy burden. Their skills with herbs and healing are desperately needed, but those same skills make them targets. Accused of witchcraft, they face persecution, public trials, or worse. Fear twists justice into cruelty, and the line between healer and heretic blurs. Many women go into hiding their wisdom, lost to a world that fears what it cannot control. You see families torn apart by suspicion and grief. Fathers disappear into the woods, never to return. Mothers cry silently for children lost to fever. Neighbors who once shared bread now eye each other across empty streets, afraid to offer help. The church, though still standing, cannot hold the community together. Its teachings clash with the harsh realities of the plague. Some cling harder to faith, while others drift away lost and disillusioned. The priest's words feel distant, a fragile thread in a world unraveling. You carry your own fear, but also a stubborn determination. In a place where death stalks every shadow, you find moments to reach out to share a meal, a smile, a whispered prayer. These small acts of kindness are acts of rebellion against despair. You walk barefoot on cold stone floors, fever burning through your bones, surrounded by suspicion, fear, and fading hope. Yet still you hold on to that faint glimmer of humanity, that quiet resistance to being consumed by the darkness. Children in this grim time live in a world far removed from the innocence we often associate with youth. You look around and see no playful laughter, no carefree games in the fields or village squares. Instead, children bear responsibilities beyond their years, fetching water from wells, tending to sick family members, and even digging graves for those who will not rise again. Their small hands are roughened by work meant for adults. Their eyes, wide and watchful, miss nothing. The hushed cries of a mother, the rattle of a neighbor's cough, the clattering of the plague cart. Childhood as you once knew it has been stolen by the relentless march of death and despair. You see a boy no older than 10 carrying a heavy bucket of water, his steps slow but determined. His face is streaked with dirt and tears, but his eyes betray a fierce resolve. You wonder if he knows a future beyond these desperate days, or if his world is now confined to survival alone. Girls too take on roles usually reserved for grown women. They learn to cook, to heal, to comfort, skills passed down through whispered lessons in candlelit rooms. Some become caregivers for the dying, cradling frail bodies with hands too small but hearts too big. Others assist in making shrouds or preparing bodies for burial tasks no child should have to face. The fear of sickness hangs over every child like a dark cloud. They watch their families fall ill one by one, clutching at memories of happier times. Some whisper prayers to saints, others hold tight to talismans. Small charms or crosses meant to protect them from the invisible enemy. School is a distant memory. The village teacher, like many, has succumbed. There are no lessons, no stories to fuel young imaginations. Instead, children learn the harsh truths of death, loss, and endurance. Yet even amid this harshness, moments of childhood flicker like fragile flames. You glimpse a group of children huddled together sharing a crust of bread. Their whispered laughter a defiant melody against the silence. They create games from scraps, invent stories to escape the bleakness and find joy in small things, a bright flower, a passing bird, the warmth of a shared blanket. These moments are rare but precious. They remind you that even in the darkest times, the human spirit clings to hope and innocence. You watch as a child gently cradles a sick sibling, singing a soft lullaby in a voice barely above a whisper. It is a song of comfort, a plea for peace in a world torn apart. You feel your own heart ache with a mixture of sorrow and admiration. In this world ravaged by plague and fear, children are both the most vulnerable and the most resilient. Their survival is a testament to the enduring will of life itself. You walk barefoot on cold stone floors, fever burning through your bones, surrounded by death and despair, yet still you hold on to the faintest glimmer of hope, a hope carried in the eyes of children who, despite everything, continue to live. Women in these desperate times face a peril unlike any other. The plague's shadow stretches not only over their bodies but over their very identities. As death claims so many women, especially those who live alone or possess knowledge of herbs and healing, become targets for suspicion and violence. Accusations of witchcraft spiral through the village like wildfire fanned by fear-ignorance, and the desperate need for someone to blame. You see it in the way neighbors look askance at the midwife who tended your mother when she was sick. Whispers follow her down the street. She has the devil's touch, some say. Her herbs are poisons, say others. Her hands, once a source of comfort, are now tools of malevolence in the eyes of the frightened. Public trials become spectacles of terror. Women are dragged before angry mobs, forced to confess sins under duress or torture. Some plead their innocence. Others break beneath the weight of accusations and pain. There are stories too many of women burned at the stake, drowned in rivers, or left to die alone in dark cells. You watch as these acts of cruelty tear at the very fabric of your community. The healers and wise women once respected disappear or go into hiding, leaving the sick with fewer hands to tend them. Knowledge of herbs, remedies, and midwifery, the lifelines of survival, fade like dying embers. Yet despite the danger, many women refuse to surrender. They continue their healing practices in secret, slipping through shadows to offer aid. Their courage and resilience become acts of defiance against a world intent on silencing them. Women also bear the brunt of grief and loss. Widowed, childless, or left to care for orphaned kin, they carry burdens heavier than any plague. They bury the dead, feed the hungry, and comfort the brokenhearted. Their strength often goes unseen, but it is the backbone of whatever life remains. You see the quiet moments: a mother rocking a fevered child, a sister tending to a dying brother, a neighbor sharing scarce bread with another. These acts, though small, weave threads of humanity into the tattered tapestry of your world. The plague may have stripped women of status and safety, but it cannot extinguish their spirit. In the face of fear and persecution, they become warriors of survival, healers of body and soul. You walk barefoot on cold stone floors, fever burning through your bones, surrounded by death and despair. Yet still you hold on to the quiet strength of women, the silent force that keeps hope alive. The aftermath of the Black Death leaves a scar on Europe that will never fully heal. You walk through villages half empty, their streets echoing with silence where once there was laughter and life. A third of the population is gone in the blink of an eye, leaving behind empty homes, abandoned fields, and shattered families. You see the husks of towns, their walls crumbling and overgrown with weeds. Shops stand empty, market stalls, deserted, their goods long spoiled or stolen. The fields once fertile and tended lie fallow, waiting for hands that will never return. The rhythm of life has been shattered, replaced by an eerie stillness. The survivors carry their grief silently. They bury their loved ones as best they can, often in mass graves with little ceremony. The old ways of mourning with songs and tears and prayers have been replaced by quiet desperation and numb acceptance. You find yourself haunted by memories of faces gone forever, voices that no longer call your name. Yet amid this devastation, life begins to stir once more. Fields are slowly reclaimed and new hands take up the plow. Villages start to fill again, albeit slowly and cautiously. Survivors band together, forging new communities from the ashes of the old. The bonds of kinship and friendship, though stretched thin, prove resilient. Society itself begins to transform. Laborers find their work in higher demand, and the scarcity of workers gives peasants newfound leverage. Wages rise and old feudal bonds start to loosen. The world you knew before the plague is gone, but something new is taking its place, uncertain, fragile, but alive. Historians still argue whether this devastation sparked the Renaissance, a flowering of art, science, and thought born from the pain of loss. Some say the plague tore apart the old order, clearing the way for new ideas and freedoms. Others caution that recovery was slow and uneven, marked by continued hardship. You walk barefoot on cold stone floors, fever burned from your bones now, only in memory, surrounded by a world changed forever. The despair that once threatened to swallow you has begun to give way to cautious hope. You remember the faces of those lost, the silent streets, the empty fields. But you also remember the resilience, the hands that tilled the earth again, the voices that sang new songs, the flickers of life returning. The Black Death was a cruel teacher, but it also showed the strength of the human spirit. You hold on to that truth as you step forward into a future unknown, carrying both grief and hope in your heart. When you pause to consider the world before the Black Death, it feels like a distant dream. A time of relative stability, however harsh, before the great unraveling. The streets bustled with merchants, farmers tended their fields, children played under the watchful eyes of their elders. Villages were woven tightly with bonds of kinship and community. Life had its hardships, yes, but also its rhythms and certainties. Now those rhythms are shattered, replaced by a landscape of silence and suspicion. The familiar sounds of daily life, the clatter of carts, the calls of market vendors, the laughter of children have been swallowed by the shadow of death. You walk through your village and find it transformed a place of echoes and ghosts. Yet looking back from this vantage point, you realize how precious survival was even amid such suffering. You think about today's trivial struggles, a missed appointment, a broken phone, a bad day at work. Compared to the relentless terror of the plague, these seem like petty inconveniences. You try to imagine what it must have been like trudging through muddy streets, your clothes torn and filthy, knowing that a single cough or sneeze could be your last. You think of the constant hunger, the stench of death that never left your nostrils, the exhaustion that pressed on your body like a heavy stone. Historians still argue whether this brutal period was merely a dark chapter or a catalyst for change. Some claim the Black Death shattered medieval society, ushering in new economic realities and social structures. Others see it as a tragic pause, a setback that delayed progress. Either way, the plague's impact was profound and lasting. You reflect on how the plague challenged every belief you held. faith community family, these pillars were tested by death and despair. Yet within that crucible, new forms of resilience emerged. People adapted, communities reformed, and life stubborn as ever persisted. It's easy to romanticize the past to imagine history as a storybook, but the truth is raw and unvarnished. You remember the faces of those lost, the weight of grief that threatened to crush you, and the flicker of hope that kept you moving forward. Today, as you walk barefoot on cold stone floors or sit by a warm fire, you carry those memories not as burdens, but as reminders of human endurance. The Black Death was a time when life hung by a thread, yet somehow that thread held. You hold on to that truth as you step into the future, grateful for the world you have humbled by the resilience of those who came before. Step back from the plague-ravaged streets and dusty fields and imagine yourself in the ancient world of Egypt, thousands of years before. You are a laborer, one of the countless men who haul massive stones, carve limestone, and build the Great Pyramid. Your days are long and brutal, the sun scorching overhead, the work unrelenting. You breathe in dust and sweat, your muscles aching from endless toil. Life is hard but purposeful. You believe your labor ensures the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife, that the pyramid is a gateway to eternity. This faith keeps you moving even as your body cries out for rest. The worksite is a cacophony of sounds chipped. Stone striking stone shouted commands, the grunts of men pushing sleds laden with massive blocks. Rations are simple but vital: bread, onions, and beer. The bread is coarse and dense, made from emmer wheat, its texture rough against your tongue. Onions, pungent and biting, offer some flavor, while beer, thick and sour, provides both sustenance and relief. These humble foods fuel your body through grueling days. Your village is cramped and bustling with stone huts packed tightly together. Privacy is scarce. Family members share every space, every moment. The air is thick with smoke from cooking fires, the chatter of children, and the occasional burst of laughter. A precious respite from the hard reality. Injuries are common. You see men with broken limbs, festering wounds, and infections that modern medicine would easily treat, but here mean slow suffering. Death is always near, yet the work continues, driven by duty and belief. Historians still argue whether the pyramid builders were slaves or paid laborers, but for you, the work is a matter of survival and honor. You know your efforts will outlast you, etched in stone for generations to come. Despite the hardship, small joys persist. Songs rise at dawn, tales are told at dusk, and camaraderie forms in shared struggle. Your hands are rough, your body weary, but your spirit remains unbroken. You carry the weight of the stones and the weight of legacy, knowing that your name may be forgotten, but your work will speak for you through the ages. The sun has barely risen yet, you are already moving. The morning air is dry and warm, a stark contrast to the cold stone beneath your feet from the night before. You join the steady stream of workers heading toward the quarry muscles, tense and prepared for the day's toil. The path is dusty, strewn with rocks and debris, but the promise of labor drives you onward. The work itself is brutal. You haul massive limestone blocks across the desert, sliding them over wooden sleds lubricated with water and oil. The weight presses against your shoulders and back. Your breath comes in short gasps, and sweat drips from your brow into your eyes. Each stone feels heavier than the last, as if the weight of the pharaoh's glory rests on your very bones. The overseers shout commands, their voices harsh and unforgiving. There is no room for weakness or complaint. Rest is brief and rationed. The sun blazes overhead, unforgiving in its heat. The air is filled with the clinking of chisels against stone, and the grunts of men pushing against impossible loads. Rations are meager but essential. You break stale bread coarse and dry washed down with thick sour beer brewed from barley. Onions, sharp and pungent, offer a bite of flavor amidst the monotony. This simple fare sustains you, fueling the relentless pace of labor. Your village is a cluster of stone huts packed tightly together to shelter workers and their families. Privacy is a luxury unknown. Laughter and tears alike echo through thin walls. Fires burn constantly, cooking meals and warding off the chill that creeps in at night. Injuries are common. Cracked bones, lacerations, infections, each a potential death sentence. Medical knowledge is rudimentary and healing is slow. Yet despite the pain and exhaustion, you press on, driven by duty, fear, and the promise of eternal life for the pharaoh. Belief in the divine nature of the pharaoh's journey gives you strength. You tell yourself that your suffering has purpose, that the pyramid is a bridge between worlds. This faith is both a comfort and a burden, pressing on your soul as heavily as the stones on your back. Amid the hardship, camaraderie blossoms. Songs rise in the air telling tales of gods, heroes, and hope. Jokes and stories pass between men during brief rest, moments of lightness in a world of toil. Historians still debate the lives of pyramid workers, whether slaves or paid laborers, whether coerced or willing. But for you, the question matters little. Your reality is sweat and stone, pain and perseverance. As the sun sets, casting long shadows over the desert, you return home. Body aching but spirit unbroken. You sleep on straw mats, dreams filled with visions of the grand stone monument that will outlast your fleeting life. You carry not just stones, but the weight of legacy, etched into history by hands like yours. Your rations are humble but vital, simple staples that have sustained generations before you. Bread, the cornerstone of your diet, is coarse and dense, made from emmer wheat ground in the village mill. It lacks the softness you might imagine, instead offering a rough texture that scrapes your tongue and fills your belly. You break off chunks to eat throughout the day, each bite a reminder of necessity rather than pleasure. Onions are a common accompaniment, their pungent aroma filling the air as you peel and chew. They're sharp and biting, but their flavor cuts through the monotony of the bread and beer. Sometimes a boiled onion is all you have to brighten a meager meal. Despite their simplicity, these humble vegetables offer nutrients that keep your body going under relentless strain. Beer, thick and sour, is your constant companion. Brewed from barley and often cloudy with sediment, it's less a beverage of indulgence and more a source of hydration and calories. It's comforting in its familiarity, warming your throat and settling your stomach after long hours of labor. The beer here is far removed from the delicate brews of later centuries. It's hearty, earthy, and sustains more than it refreshes. Your village, a cluster of stone huts with flat roofs, hums with life amid the harsh environment. Families live close together, sharing spaces, stories, and hardships. Privacy is a rare luxury. Walls are thin, and laughter and tears alike echo through the narrow streets. Children play amidst the dust, their games a brief reprieve from the demands of daily survival. Injuries are a constant threat. The quarry's unforgiving rocks and the heavy stones you move daily leave many with cracked limbs, bruises and wounds that become infected without proper care. The local healer, armed with herbal remedies and prayers, does what she can, but her knowledge is limited, and many succumb to infections that modern medicine would easily cure. Despite the hardships, there is camaraderie among the workers. Songs echo through the quarry, voices raised in unison as you labor under the sun. Stories of gods, heroes, and the afterlife provide comfort and distraction. Laughter, though rare, breaks through the toil, a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, humanity persists. Your belief in the pharaoh's divine status and the eternal journey that the pyramid symbolizes fuels your endurance. You tell yourself that the pain and exhaustion are sacrifices for a greater purpose, that your labor ensures not only the pharaoh's immortality, but also your place in the grand order of the cosmos. Historians debate the lives of pyramid workers, whether slaves, conscripts, or paid laborers. But for you, these distinctions fade against the backdrop of daily survival. Your world is one of stone and sweat, faith and fatigue. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting the desert in hues of gold and crimson, you return to your hut body aching, but spirit unbroken. The promise of the pyramid rising slowly from the earth is a beacon of hope in an unforgiving world. You sleep on a straw mat, dreams filled with visions of the great stone monument that will outlast you. A testament to the labor of countless hands like yours, you carry the weight of history, etched in limestone and sweat enduring beyond your mortal days. Your village is a bustling, cramped cluster of stone huts, each pressed close against the next to shelter families and workers from the harsh desert sun and biting night winds. Privacy is a distant luxury here. Walls are thin. Doors creak loudly and the air is filled with the mingled scents of cooking fires, sweat, and dust. The streets are narrow, winding paths of packed earth, where children play amid the daily bustle, their laughter and cries a fragile soundtrack to the endless labor. Families crowd into small spaces, sharing what little they have. The village is alive with activity from dawn to dusk, a constant rhythm of work and survival. Women prepare simple meals over open fires, grinding grain with rough stones or kneading dough with calloused hands. Men repair tools, mend clothing, or prepare for the grueling days ahead, hauling stones and shaping blocks for the pyramid. The communal spirit is strong. Neighbors share supplies, look after one another's children, and come together in times of need. Yet beneath the surface, the strain of labor and scarcity weighs heavily. Tensions flare over resources, disputes arise over work assignments, and fatigue breeds frustration. Still, the people endure, bound by shared hardship and a common purpose. The village is not without its moments of joy. Festivals and religious ceremonies break the monotony, offering opportunities to celebrate the gods, honor the pharaoh, and renew bonds. Music and dance fill the air during these gatherings, and stories of gods and heroes are told beneath starlit skies. These brief respites are cherished reminders of life beyond toil. At night, the village quiets, save for the crackling of fires and the soft murmur of voices. Families huddle close for warmth, sharing stories and prayers. The stars overhead are brilliant, a vast canopy reminding you of forces greater than yourself. Sleep is precious but often elusive, stolen, in short bursts before the cycle begins anew. Despite the hardships, the village remains a place of resilience and community. It is here that the workers find strength not just in their own endurance, but in the bonds they share. Each stone placed in the pyramid is more than a block of limestone. It is a testament to a collective will, a shared hope for immortality and legacy. Historians still debate the social structures of these ancient villages, but it is clear that cooperation and mutual support were essential. The village, small and vulnerable, was a world in itself, a crucible where individual lives melded into a greater whole. As you rest your head on a rough pillow, the distant sounds of laughter and song lull you toward sleep. Tomorrow promises more work, more challenges, but also the quiet satisfaction of building something eternal. You carry the weight of your village's spirit woven into the very stones of the pyramid, enduring beyond your days. Injuries on the pyramid work site are constant, unyielding threat. Every day you see men with bruises, cuts, and worse broken bones from missteps on uneven ground or crushed limbs caught beneath sliding blocks. The work is relentless, unforgiving, and accidents are as common as the scorching sun overhead. Each wound carries the risk of infection, a slow descent into pain and fever that many do not survive. You remember the man who slipped while hauling a massive limestone slab, his leg crushed beneath the weight. There was no doctor to tend him, no medicine to ease his suffering. His cries echoed through the camp until they faded into silence. Others carry scars, reminders of past misfortunes and close calls, badges of endurance earned in the heat and dust. Medical knowledge is rudimentary at best. The village healer, often a wise woman skilled in herbs and rituals, tends to the injured with poultices made from crushed plants, honey, and clay. Her hands are gentle but limited by the tools and understanding of the time. Infection, gangrene, and fever are common curses claiming more lives than the stones themselves. You watch as a fellow laborer wraps his bleeding hand with strips of linen, his face pale but determined. The work cannot stop. The pharaoh's pyramid waits for no one. You know that showing weakness can mean losing your place or worse, your life. Yet amidst the pain and danger, moments of compassion arise. Men help each other carry loads when strength falters. Stories are shared to distract from aches. Songs are sung to steady tired hands. These bonds of brotherhood forged in hardship offer a fragile lifeline. Your belief in the pharaoh's divine mission fuels your resolve. You tell yourself that each ache and injury is a step toward eternity, a sacrifice on the path to immortality. This faith is both a shield and a burden sustaining you through endless toil. Historians still debate the conditions of these workers, whether forced or voluntary, respected or exploited. But for you, the daily struggle is clear pain, perseverance, and the hope that your labor will outlast your fleeting life. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows over the desert, you tend your wounds with what little you have, preparing for another day of backbreaking work. Your body aches, but your spirit remains unbroken. You carry the scars of your labor and the weight of legacy etched in stone and memory. Each morning you awaken to the same harsh reality, another day under the unrelenting sun. Another day of endless labor building the pharaoh's eternal resting place. Your body, already worn thin by sweat and strain, braces itself for the heavy tasks ahead. Yet despite the grueling work, you find moments that remind you why you endure. Your village is alive with the quiet hum of shared purpose. Neighbors exchange stories as they prepare simple meals. Children chase each other between stone huts, and the steady rhythm of chisels striking limestone fills the air. Though the work is relentless, these small acts of life persist, a testament to human resilience. You think of the bread you'll break at midday, dense and coarse, washed down with sour beer brewed from barley. It's not a feast, but sustenance enough to keep you moving. Onions, sharp and biting, add flavor and vitality. This humble fare, repeated day after day, connects you to generations who lived and labored before. At the quarry, the weight of stone and expectation presses upon you. Each block you help move is more than a piece of limestone. It is a brick in the foundation of a legacy meant to defy time. Your hands are raw, your muscles ache, but your spirit holds firm. Injuries remind you of your mortality. The splintered bone of a fellow worker, the festering wound that no herb can heal, each is a silent warning. Yet in these hardships camaraderie grows. Men share their strength and stories, lending hands and hope. The belief that your labor connects you to the divine gives purpose to the suffering. The Pharaoh's journey to eternity is intertwined with your own shared path, etched in stone and sweat. This faith is both comfort and compulsion. You reflect on the village's simple joys song story, shared bread, and the resilience that binds you all. Though hardship is constant, the human spirit shines in moments of laughter and connection. Historians still debate the lives of pyramid workers, but you know the truth in your bones. Life is harsh, fleeting, but worth the effort to leave a mark. As night falls, you rest beneath a sky heavy with stars, dreams mingling with the dust of the desert and the hope of immortality. You carry the legacy of your labor, a testament to endurance and belief. Now imagine shifting from the sun-baked stones of Egypt to the vast wind-swept steppes of Central Asia, where the fierce and proud Thomius rules as queen of her nomadic tribe. Unlike the settled farmers and laborers you once knew, her people live in constant motion, following the seasons, the herds, and the rhythms of the wild. Life here is raw, untamed, and defined by survival in a harsh and unforgiving land. Thomius is no ordinary leader. She commands respect through strength, wisdom, and an unyielding will to protect her people. Her name is whispered with both reverence and fear across the steppe. Under her rule, the tribe thrives, navigating the challenges of war nature and shifting alliances. The steppes are vast and beautiful, rolling grasses stretching to the horizon. Skies so wide they seem endless. But beauty belies danger. Winters bite hard with freezing winds, summers scorch the earth, and rival tribes lurk ever ready to raid or seize territory. Every day is a test of endurance and cunning. Thomius's life is a dance between diplomacy and war. She negotiates alliances, arranges marriages, and leads warriors into battle when necessary. Her refusal to accept a marriage proposal from Cyrus the Great, a powerful conqueror, seeking to bind her tribe to his empire, is an act of fierce independence. She values freedom over submission, loyalty over power. The weight of leadership rests heavily on her shoulders. Her decisions shape the fate of her people, and every choice carries the risk of war or survival. She raises her son with the same strength and determination, preparing him to inherit her legacy. War is never far away. When her son is captured, Thomius's wrath is swift and merciless. She leads campaigns that echo across the steppe, vengeance fueling her resolve. Her story becomes legend, a symbol of resilience and fierce maternal protection. Historians still debate the details of her life, her exact lineage, the scope of her rule, but her legacy as a strong, independent leader endures. She embodies the spirit of the steppe, wild, untamed, and unyielding. You imagine standing beside her, feeling the cold wind whip your hair, hearing the thunder of hooves, and knowing that in this world, strength and courage are the currency of survival. Her story is a testament to leadership forged in fire, a reminder that even in the harshest landscapes, the human spirit can rise. You carry the memory of Thomius, the nomadic queen, as a beacon of strength and survival. The vast open steppes are both a blessing and a curse for those who call them home. For Thomius and her tribe, the endless grasslands offer freedom, sustenance, and a place to roam, but they also demand constant vigilance and adaptability. Every season brings new challenges, scorching summers with parched earth, bitter winters that freeze the soul, and the ever-present threat of rival clans encroaching on their territory. The tribe's life revolves around the herds, horses, sheep, and cattle that provide food, clothing, and tools. Each day begins before dawn with the sounds of hooves thundering across the plain as shepherds lead their animals to fresh pastures. Thomius watches over these movements with the keen eye, knowing that the survival of her people depends on careful stewardship of their resources. The nomads live in yurts, portable round tents made from wooden frames and thick felt. These homes are designed for the constant movement that defines their lives. Inside, the air is thick with the smoke of cooking fires, mingling with the scent of animal hides and the warmth of shared bodies. Families gather around low tables, sharing meals of roasted meat, dried fruits, and fermented mare's milk, a tangy, frothy drink that fortifies them for the day ahead. Despite the harshness of their environment, moments of joy punctuate the daily grind. Music and storytelling are vital, weaving the tribe's history and legends into the fabric of their identity. Children learn songs that celebrate the bravery of ancestors, the beauty of the land, and the bonds that hold the tribe together. Tomias herself is both a warrior and a diplomat. Her voice commands respect in council gatherings where decisions about alliances, warfare, and resource management are made. Her wisdom guides her people through times of peace and conflict alike. When the threat of invasion looms, she leads warriors into battle, fierce and unyielding. Her refusal to marry Cyrus the Great is a testament to her resolve and vision. She understands that submission would mean the loss of her people's autonomy, their way of life. Instead, she chooses resistance, rallying her tribe around the ideals of freedom and self-determination. The capture of her son is a devastating blow, but it only steels her resolve. Her campaign of vengeance is swift and brutal, a reminder to all that Tomias is not to be crossed. Her story spreads far beyond the steppes, inspiring fear and admiration in equal measure. Historians continue to study her legacy, piecing together fragments of legend and fact. She stands as a symbol of strength in a world where power is often measured by the sword and the will to survive. You imagine riding alongside her, the wind whipping past as horses thunder across the endless grass. In this world of vast horizons and fierce loyalty, Tomias' spirit lives on a testament to leadership, courage, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her people. You carry the story of Tomias, the nomadic queen, deep in your heart, a beacon of resilience amid the endless steppe. The quarry where you work is a place of relentless labor and quiet desperation. The morning sun has just begun to warm the desert floor, but already the air vibrates with the sounds of chisels striking stone and men grunting under heavy loads. Each block you help to shape and move is a testament to endurance, a brick in a monument that reaches for the heavens. The work is grueling and the risks are high. Men slip on uneven ground, dropping stones that crush fingers or worse. The relentless sun beats down, sapping strength and morale. You watch a fellow laborer collapse from heat exhaustion, his face pale and sweat-soaked. Others nurse cuts and bruises that threaten infection, but the work cannot stop, not with the pharaoh's tomb awaiting completion. Rations are meager and monotonous. Stale bread onions that burn your eyes when you peel them, and thick sour beer sustain you through the day. These simple foods are all that stand between hunger and collapse. The village's tightly packed stone huts offer scant shelter, and privacy is a forgotten luxury. You share space with family and neighbors, their sorrows and hopes mingling in the cramped quarters. Despite the hardships, moments of camaraderie provide relief. Songs rise above the clatter of tools, tales are exchanged during brief rests, and laughter sometimes breaks through the toil. These connections remind you that you are not alone in this grueling task, that together you build more than stone. You build community. Your belief in the pharaoh's divine destiny fuels your perseverance. You tell yourself that your sacrifices will grant him immortality, and that your own spirit will be part of that eternal legacy. This faith, both a comfort and a compulsion, drives you onward when exhaustion threatens to claim you. Historians debate the nature of pyramid labor, whether it was forced, or voluntary, exploitative, or honorable. But your experience is clear. Life is hard, fleeting, and defined by endurance. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows over the quarry, you tend your wounds with limited remedies, preparing for another day of relentless work. Your body aches, but your resolve remains unbroken. You carry the scars of labor and the weight of legacy etched in stone and memory. Amid the harshness of daily toil, life breathes in small, precious moments. The heat of the day may be relentless, but when evening falls, a quiet stillness settles over the village and the quarry alike. The men gather around modest fires, their faces glowing in the flickering light as they share stories and songs that stretch back generations. These gatherings are more than mere respite. They are acts of defiance against the weariness that threatens to consume you. Songs of gods and heroes weave through the night air, connecting you to the myths that shape your world. A father's voice rises to carry a ballad of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, promising eternal life beyond mortal suffering. Children listen wide-eyed, absorbing tales of valor and sacrifice, imagining futures far removed from the dusty stones and sweat-drenched days. Laughter breaks out unexpectedly, a rare jewel amid hardship. A playful argument, a jest at a neighbor's expense, a clumsy dance beneath the stars. These moments remind you that despite the grueling work and constant danger, the human spirit is irrepressible. Within the village, women gather in circles, their voices soft but insistent. They prepare simple meals, mix herbal remedies, and share wisdom passed down through generations. Their strength is the quiet foundation upon which the community rests, tending wounds both visible and unseen. Children, though burdened by responsibilities beyond their years, find pockets of playfulness. Their games, chasing each other among stone huts, crafting toys from scraps, bring fleeting joy. Their laughter is a balm, a promise that life continues even in adversity. At dawn, the rhythms of labor resume, but these moments of connection linger in your mind, fueling your endurance. The bonds forged in firelight and song are as vital as the bread you break or the water you drink. Historians still ponder the daily lives of these ancient workers, but what remains clear is the resilience born not just from survival, but from community. You carry these memories, the songs, the laughter, the shared meals etched deep within your soul, a testament to life's enduring flame amid stone and sweat. In the endless expanse of the desert under the vast dome of the sky, the weight of belief presses heavily upon you. Faith is not merely a personal solace. It is the lifeblood of the community, a binding force that holds together families, villages, and even the laborers who toil beneath the scorching sun. The pharaoh's divine status is unquestioned, his immortality promised through the pyramid you helped build, and this belief shapes every aspect of your existence. Each stone you lay is more than just rock, it is a sacred offering, a piece of the eternal bridge between earth and the heavens. The temple priests remind you that your labor serves not only the pharaoh's journey, but ensures the favor of the gods upon your own life. This promise of eternal life in the afterworld is a comfort in a world where death is ever present. Rituals and prayers punctuate your days. Before work begins, you and your fellow workers bow your heads, calling upon gods like Ra Osiris and Isis to grant strength and protection. Sacred symbols are etched onto tools and stones, believed to imbue them with divine power. Festivals honoring the gods bring rare moments of celebration, offering respite from the ceaseless demands of labor. Yet faith is a double-edged sword. It demands obedience and sacrifice. Dissent is met with suspicion, and questioning the divine order risks social exile or worse. You accept your place in this grand design even as your body aches and your spirit strains. Historians still debate how deeply these beliefs penetrated the lives of laborers, whether they were truly devout or simply resigned to the rituals imposed upon them. For you, belief is intertwined with survival, a shield against the harshness of reality. On quiet nights, as you lie beneath a canopy of stars, you ponder the mysteries of life and death. The gods are distant, their voices carried in the wind, their presence felt in the stones you shape. You dream of a time beyond this mortal coil where your spirit might rest in peace alongside the pharaoh you serve. The pyramid rises slowly, its shadow growing with each passing day, a monument not just to a king, but to the faith, toil, and endurance of countless hands. You carry the weight of belief as surely as you carry the stones, a legacy that will outlast even your mortal days. The pyramid you help build is more than just a structure. It is the embodiment of a civilization's hopes, fears, and beliefs. Its towering limestone blocks, meticulously placed one upon another, reach toward the sky like a giant hand, grasping for eternity. You know that long after your body has returned to dust, these stones will stand a silent testament to your labor and your era. Yet beneath the grandeur, the reality of construction is harsh and unforgiving. The weight of the stones crushes not just the earth beneath, but the bodies of many workers. You hear stories of men who fell from great heights, their screams swallowed by the desert winds. Others are crushed under shifting blocks or succumb to illness and exhaustion. The pyramid is built on sacrifice as much as skill. Your role, though small in the grand scheme, is vital. Each block you shape, each stone you move brings the monument closer to completion. You take pride in your craftsmanship, in the knowledge that your hands leave a mark on history. The precision required is immense. A single miscalculation could doom the entire structure. Despite the hardships, a sense of purpose fills you. The pyramid is a bridge between worlds, the mortal and the divine. It ensures the pharaoh's safe passage to the afterlife where he will reign forever. Your work connects you to this sacred journey, binding your fate to his. Historians debate the true nature of the labor force, whether they were slaves or paid workers, but your experience transcends such labels. You are a part of something greater, a collective striving toward immortality. The pyramid's shadow lengthens as the sun sets, bathing the desert in hues of gold and crimson. The village quiets and you rest on your straw mat muscles, aching but spirit unbroken. Your dreams are filled with visions of the towering monument, a beacon of human endeavor and divine ambition. You carry the legacy of the pyramid within you, a testament to endurance, faith, and the desire to transcend mortality. Now shift your gaze from the arid desert to the sweeping grasslands of Central Asia, where Thomius reigns as the fierce nomadic queen. Her world is one of constant movement, where survival depends on the wind, the horse, and the sharpness of steel. The endless steppe stretches out under a vast sky, a place of freedom and danger intertwined. Thomius is no ordinary leader. She commands respect with a voice that cuts through the cold air, and a presence that demands loyalty. Her tribe looks to her not only as a ruler, but as a protector, a mother, and a warrior. Her leadership is forged in the fires of conflict and the harsh realities of nomadic life. The tribe moves with the seasons, packing up their yurts and following the herds that sustain them. Life is a delicate balance of managing resources, defending territory, and maintaining alliances. Every decision Thomius makes affects the survival of her people. When Cyrus the Great, a powerful conqueror, proposes marriage, Thomius refuses. Her answer is clear: independence and freedom are worth more than submission to an empire. This refusal is bold, risky, and speaks to her unyielding spirit. Her son's capture by rival forces ignites a fierce campaign of vengeance. Timaeus leads her warriors with unmatched ferocity, her wrath a storm across the steppe. Her legacy is one of strength, resilience, and unwavering commitment to her tribe. The steppes are a harsh teacher. Winters bite deep, summers scorch the earth, and rival clans are ever watchful. But under Timaeus' leadership, her people endure. Their culture, traditions, and identity are preserved against all odds. Historians debate the details of her life, but her legend endures a symbol of fierce maternal protection and leadership in a world where strength means survival. You imagine riding beside her, the wind in your hair, the thunder of hooves beneath you. In this land of vast horizons, Tomius' spirit rides free, a testament to courage and resilience. You carry her story as a beacon, a reminder that leadership and strength come in many forms. Life on the steppes is a relentless test of endurance. Each dawn brings with it the familiar chill of the morning air, a sharp reminder that this vast land tolerates no weakness. You rise from your felt-lined yurt, the soft thud of hooves echoing in the distance as the tribe's herds begin to stir. The scent of smoke from cooking fires mingles with the fresh, crisp breeze, an olfactory anchor to the cycle of survival. Timaeus surveys her people with a keen eye. Warriors prepare their bows and spears, their faces set in determined lines, ready to defend their home from any who would challenge it. Women and children move swiftly between tents, tending to animals, preparing meals, and weaving the intricate patterns that adorn their garments. Symbols of identity and pride. The nomadic lifestyle demands constant adaptation. The tribe follows the rhythm of the seasons, migrating to find fresh pastures for their herds. The grasslands stretch endlessly, a sea of green and gold that shifts with the wind. Water sources are precious, carefully guarded, and the knowledge of where to find them is passed down through generations like sacred lore. Food is scarce and precious. The diet consists largely of meat from livestock, supplemented by foraged plants and dried berries. Fermented mare's milk, known as kumis, is a staple at Sourtang, both refreshing and nourishing. Meals are simple but sustaining, prepared quickly before the next journey begins. The hardships of the steppe forge a tight-knit community. Bonds of kinship and loyalty run deep, essential for survival in such a harsh environment. Storytelling and music are vital, weaving the history of the tribe into the fabric of daily life. Around campfires, elders recount tales of heroes, gods, and ancestors, instilling pride and continuity. Timaeus' leadership is tested constantly. She navigates the delicate balance between war and peace, forging alliances when necessary, and leading raids when survival demands it. Her refusal to submit to empire is a statement of fierce independence, inspiring loyalty and fear alike. Her son's capture sparks a fire of vengeance, a brutal campaign that cements her legacy. The steppe remembers her not just as a queen, but as a symbol of strength and maternal devotion. Historians continue to piece together her story, finding in her life echoes of the nomadic spirit, resilient, unyielding, and forever tied to the wild landscape. You imagine standing beside her, the wind tugging at your clothes, the horizon endless and full of promise and peril. In this world, survival is not just a matter of strength, but of will. You carry the spirit of Timaeus with you, a reminder that freedom and courage are worth every sacrifice. Timaeus' defiance of empire is a story whispered across the vast steppes and beyond. When Cyrus the Great, the ambitious conqueror, sends emissaries proposing marriage, To bind her tribe to his burgeoning empire, she rejects the offer with unyielding resolve. It is a declaration of independence that echoes through the valleys and deserts. Alike, the nomads will remain free. Her refusal is not without consequence. Cyrus's power is vast, and his armies march like storms, seeking to bring all under his rule. But Timaeus' tribe is no mere collection of subjects. They are warriors molded by the unforgiving land, loyal to their queen and fierce in their defense. The tension between empire and freedom simmers beneath the endless sky. Timaeus fortifies alliances, strengthens her people, and prepares for conflict. Her leadership is a blend of wisdom and ferocity, a beacon for those who refuse to bow. When her son is captured in a raid, the personal becomes political. The sting of loss fuels a campaign of vengeance that sweeps across the steppe like wildfire. Timaeus leads her warriors with unmatched courage, striking with precision and brutality to reclaim what was taken. Her legacy is carved into the history of the land, a tale of resistance, motherhood, and unbreakable will. In a world dominated by empires and kings, she stands apart. A queen who chose freedom over submission, strength over surrender. Historians debate the details, the legends, and the myths surrounding her life, but her spirit endures. She is a symbol of the fierce independence that defines the nomadic peoples of the steppe. You imagine riding alongside her, the wind in your hair, the thunder of hooves beneath you. Her story is a reminder that leadership comes in many forms and that courage can change the course of history. You carry the tale of Timaeus in your heart, a beacon of defiance and strength in a wild, untamed world. Vengeance and war mark the turning point of Timaeus' life, transforming her from a ruler into a legend etched across the sweeping steppe. The capture of her son is not merely a personal tragedy, it is a spark that ignites a fierce and unrelenting campaign to reclaim honor, power, and freedom. The tribe mobilizes quickly, warriors mounting their horses with practiced ease, weapons sharpened and ready. The air hums with anticipation and tension, a storm gathering over the horizon. Timaeus herself rides at the forefront, her presence commanding respect and fear. Her eyes burn with a fire fueled by loss and determination. The battles are brutal. The clash of steel, the thunder of hooves, and the cries of warriors fill the air. The steppe becomes a theater of conflict where strategy and strength determine survival. Timaeus' leadership shines amid the chaos. Her decisions swift, her tactics effective. She knows the land intimately, using its vastness to her advantage, striking hard and vanishing before retaliation. Her vengeance is not mere retribution. It is a fight for the survival of her people's way of life. Each victory sends a message to rival clans and empires alike. The tribe under Timaeus' rule will not be subdued. The campaigns leave scars on the land and in the hearts of those who fight. Yet they also forge bonds stronger than blood. Warriors rally behind their queen, united by shared hardship and unwavering loyalty. Historians still debate the extent and impact of these wars, piecing together fragments of oral tradition and sparse records. What remains undeniable is Timaeus' role as a fierce protector, a leader who stood against overwhelming odds. You imagine riding beside her, feeling the rush of wind and the pounding of hooves caught in the whirlwind of war, and the fierce loyalty of a people fighting for their freedom. Her story is a testament to the power of resilience, the weight of leadership, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her tribe. You carry the legacy of Timaeus with you, a flame of courage burning bright on the endless steppe. As the dust settles on the steppe and the echoes of battle fade into memory, the legacy of Timaeus stands resolute, a beacon of strength. leadership, and maternal devotion, her story, woven into the very fabric of the nomadic culture, endures as a testament to resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. You see her not just as a queen or a warrior, but as a symbol of fierce independence, a woman who shaped her destiny and that of her people with unwavering will. The tribe she led continues to roam the vast grasslands, their lives intertwined with the rhythms of nature and the lessons of survival passed down through generations. The nomadic spirit she embodied lives on in every rider who gallops across the horizon, every yurt pitched against the winds, and every song sung beneath the endless sky. Her story challenges the traditional narratives of empire and conquest, reminding you that power often resides in those who refuse to submit. Thomius's defiance against one of history's greatest conquerors speaks to the enduring human desire for freedom and self-determination, a theme as relevant today as it was in her time. You reflect on the path you've traveled in this journey, from the grim streets, shadowed by the Black Death, through the sweat and stone of ancient Egypt, to the wild, wind-swept steppes where Thomius reigns. Each story is a thread in the tapestry of human endurance, woven with pain, hope, courage, and the relentless drive to survive. As you lay down your body heavy with fatigue and your mind rich with history, you feel a quiet peace. The tales you carry are more than just stories. They are the voices of those who came before, guiding you through the night and into the dawn. Now slow your breath, soften your thoughts, and let the memories of resilience and strength lull you toward rest. Imagine the gentle sway of a yurt beneath a starlit sky, the distant hum of desert winds, the whispered prayers of a laborer beneath a rising pyramid, and the steady beat of life continuing despite all odds. Rest knowing you are connected to a long line of souls who faced hardship and endured. Let their courage fill you with calm and hope. End of script. Sweet dreams.